game plan. I am really excited to today's space. We timed last week's space perfectly. It was day one. Today is a week over. We're gonna talk a bit about what's been happening, a bit of a summary. We're not gonna regurgitate everything that I'm doing in those daily videos. In case you're missing those, please watch them. You can just watch them on X or on YouTube in English and in German. Every day, different topics, kind of walking you through. Today, I want to give you a bit of a sneak peek into the product. We're going to be posting a lot on that. It's going to come out end of this week. It's going to be something that a lot of people have been waiting for. It's very exciting, and I want to share a bit the approach, how everything works there. And so that's going to be something I'll discuss a bit at the beginning of that space. Afterwards, we're going to go into the entire Trump story, the Trump drama. What does it mean for crypto? We're going to talk a bit about the macro, about the micro. Let's see. We have Roaring Kitty. We have a lot of topics. To be fair, once we get into the macro and micro, I think Fabio is going to be a bit more on the leading end for the very simple reason I've been really, really, really focused on the business, on working. It's been long hours, but it's been very gratifying. And yeah, so that's going to be the main focus at the beginning. But first, Fabio, why don't you start a bit? Give us maybe the kind of general overview right now. How is the community in general? How is crypto in general? What's happening on a very kind of, I don't know, 30,000 foot kind of perspective?
Yeah, Jim. So I think there is a bit of a twisted sentiment and a bit of uncertainty that nobody really wants to speak it out, but there is a bit of a worrisome underlying tone that some people think, okay, what if 73K was the actual top and we go into a recession or into macro headwinds, or we have a boring summer, and is the election year or everything really going to bring us the bull run that we desperately want or that we desperately need? But this is one side of the story, and then the other side of the story is the people that are, overexposed all in and that know or feel that we will see another bull. And every time we move towards an all-time high, as we are doing right now, so we're above 71K, and
BNB just broke a new all-time high, yeah?
BNB is performing exceptionally well, I guess, due to Binance had some news on its launchpad, and also they have updated their listing regulatory rules, which are kind of interesting. I would urge everybody to take a look yourself. But the too long didn't read is basically that they promised to especially look into mid and low cap tokens, that this is basically the gap in the market, that they should list them first. That normally, or last bull run, Binance was mostly listing the large caps, the tokens that were had a bit of a standing, that were known, and Binance kind of shifted that around and said they are kind of the ones that should discover what the next hype is and be there first. That's basically the change that they want to make, and I guess that's also the reason why BNB is performing, or at least I would put it in that category. But what is maybe interesting to watch is the $72,000 level on Bitcoin, because Willy Wu made a great tweet 8 hours ago, and he said if we actually break through the 72K level, there is a bunch of shorts that would get liquidated. He's calling for 1.5 billion in shorts.
Wow.
That would get liquidated if we break 72K, and this would take us straight to 75K, which is of course a new all-time high, and that could flare up a bit of a mania again. ETF inflows are back. We saw Australia,
886 million yesterday, right?
Almost a billion. And we saw Australia getting its ETF. We saw Thailand getting its ETF. So there is some bullishness, some news. Of course, Ethereum getting an ETF. Talks about almost every other. I think the XRP guy, Brett Garlinghouse, he was like, oh, XRP is going to get an ETF in 25. People are talking about Solana ETF next. So it's like in crypto, the day we got the Bitcoin ETF, ETH actually outperformed Bitcoin just because people were anticipating an ETH ETF next. So I guess let's go down the road. If the ETH ETF is approved, probably Solana will pump like crazy. That's my prediction.
Interesting thesis. Yeah, I mean, at the moment, Ethereum is taking a bit of a breather, but it had an insane May. Right now, it's, I think, on the top 10 Yeah, on the top 10, it's actually the weakest one right now. Even if I keep going down, I mean, man, over the last 24 hours, yeah, it takes quite a while. Like you need to go out of the now Tron. Okay, Tron is underperforming, so 16. So yeah, everything until Tron over the last 24 hours is yeah. I mean, aside of the stable coins, obviously, I'm excluding Tether and USDC because that's not going up. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. Before we dig a bit in there, on our side, we have been really busy. Today, we're gonna announce that by the end of the week, we're gonna launch the customizable bundles. And what's really special about the customizable bundles is that if you're customizing a bundle, you can actually sell that bundle or advertise that bundle to others. And if others invest into that bundle, we give you part of those profits that we are making. And that's very unique in the market. I am not aware that anyone else is doing that. I know that other platforms have customizable bundles, but that concept of almost acting like an Amazon, which has always been a vision of mine, having an Amazon for finance, where anyone can basically offer anything and yeah, generate value that way. And that's going to be something that's quite exciting. So that's something the team has been really tirelessly working on. I think that's going to give us a huge boost because it's really going to allow a lot of people to create creative things. That's also why this is in line with listing 90 tokens or 90 coins in the next 90 days. Obviously, we want to expand that coin offering so that these bundles can be extremely creative, can have all kinds of themes, all kind of ideas. I hope they're gonna attract large influencers. They're gonna attract small investors, people who just maybe have a few people following, but they're just really good in creating some interesting product ideas there. And yeah, we're gonna have rankings, and we're gonna talk about those things. So it's gonna be really, really interesting. I'm very excited about this. It took quite some work to do that, and so yeah, today later in the video, I'm gonna show a bit on how we developed that, how that MVP version kind of worked. I'm really excited about this. And that's going to be combined a bit later in the month, about I think next 2 to 3 weeks. We should have very simple on ramping into those bundles, with then coming dollar cost averaging afterwards, recurring buys. Obviously, later down in the 90 days, we're going to look into the off ramping. So it's going to be super, super, super interesting. The team is really focused, and yeah, quite excited about that. So I think it's going to be a cool tool to generate buzz, generate good product ideas, and yeah, so I'm quite excited about this. Um, More about that a bit later. So I just wanted to announce this here. So stay tuned, follow a bit so that you don't miss when this stuff pops out. What bundle would you create right now, Fabio?
Um, Probably a combination. So we offer packs, which is you basically can get gold exposure. So I probably would put 4 assets into a bundle right now: Bitcoin, gold, Ether, and Solana. I'm conservative.
So the
My
top
my
three and
approach.
gold, yeah, very as a safe one, yeah.
Yeah, that's would probably be my pick, and make Bitcoin the biggest position. Probably, if I'm just talking crypto,
Would you go
I'm
by market cap, or
probably
how would you do it? Or 25, 25, 25 doesn't sound like it.
no more like 60 Bitcoin, 30 Ethereum, 10 Solana, something like that, maybe. It's very conservative, but that would probably be my approach, and then scaling out as soon as we reach all-time highs, putting a bit into stable coins, getting a nice yield on them as well, playing it super conservative. Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I've seen some previews of internal bundles. There was like yeah. I mean, the creative stuff that people have in the company is it's amazing. So I love that. Looking forward to seeing that. Yeah. What about in the market? Trump got prosecuted. I don't
So
know. People always call him now the felon. How? What's the story there? And then Biden went and did the double whammy where he kind of vetoed that crypto bill. Looks a bit done. All the crypto bros are behind Trump at the moment.
Okay, so maybe 1 or 2 facts on the Trump conviction, and then also what it's more important than what it means for crypto, and laying a few bridges there. But 1 or 2 interesting facts. So Trump got convicted for cooking the books, to put it bluntly. But cooking the books is actually not a felony charge, but a misdemeanor charge in the United States. And the
Also, because I
law
think the
side.
amount was relatively small, of 150,000, right? If I remember. I mean, of course, it's shitloads of money, but I mean, if you put this into a grand scheme of things, yeah. Not like it's not like the Enron case where I don't know there was like tens of millions or I think even billions. Yeah,
So how they did it is basically they were the legal side that prosecuted Trump. They were it's the most creative legal case I've seen. It's really crazy because they put in another charge where they basically called it election interference, and they spun it this way so they can make a felony out of the first charge. And they never disclosed what the second charge actually is. And there were no details shared. He was not convicted on the second charge. But with adding that second charge, they were able to make a felony out of a misdemeanor, which is actually pretty crazy. And then one more fact is the judge that convicted him is a insanely big Biden donor, and his daughter works for Biden. And then, it's for the Democrats, it's basically, and you already see this happening. They always, when they talk about Trump, they call him a convicted felon. So they kind of played this in a way that, they can call him a few names. I'm not sure if it's actually working out for them or if not, because afterwards his donation, he had
that
a big
crashed, right?
spike. Yeah, insane. Everybody's basically donating him. And then when you look at the polls, Biden is actually historically the worst president in poll results going into an election. And here I want to lay a bridge into crypto, because before Trump was convicted, Biden was actually somewhat opening up. The Senate passed the vote. We saw the SEC agreeing on an Ethereum ETF, and you could see the winds changing. You could. Some people said, "Oh, hey, the Democrats maybe they found out that there is 40 million to 90 million crypto holders in the United States, which makes it 1 out of 6 or 1 out of 3." Or 1 out of 4 people that hold cryptocurrencies.
And if you know one thing about crypto holders, they want to protect their bag. Yeah, they do everything to protect their bag.
Indeed. And it's pretty interesting, actually, that crypto is now part of a presidential election. Like Trump actually coming out, talking about self-custody, talking about crypto, and this being part of an election is pretty crazy. If somebody would have told me that 5 years ago, I would have said it's impossible. But here we are. And I'm not sure if the Democrats do themselves any favor in going against crypto. Maybe they're going to shift tone. Maybe they're going to do a switcheroo. I don't know. But as it stands right now, it seems that things are playing kind of in Trump's hands. Not to become political, the only thing that Julian and myself, we 100% agree on, it doesn't matter who's becoming president in November, the money printer is going to go brr in 2025.
That's what we said. We said either the senile guy or the crazy guy wins, but it doesn't matter. The money printer goes brr in 2025.
Oh, hell, it will. Biden is basically going the stimulus route, the we forgive the debt route, the fiscal route, and Trump just is going to do tax cuts. And eventually, it's both is stimulus, both is printing money. So, and both guys kind of are on the record of spending the most money ever. I think it's not going to change. So Trump broke all his records in his presidency, and Biden broke the records again. And I guess the next president, or if it's going to be Biden or Trump, they're just going to continue the way it's
so
going.
I shared this a couple of times. So I went to high school in Nashville, Tennessee, obviously a deep Republican state. And so I had a lot of my friends there and still a lot of my friends there. And people are obviously deep Republicans. And so it was so interesting speaking to them about what's going on. It reminds me actually talking to some of the crypto people when they talk about their coin, right? So it was like, okay, so what happens if Trump gets convicted? Oh, this is amazing because that just shows how Biden prosecutes his political opponents, right? And then I said, yeah, but what happens if he actually gets freed? Oh, this is amazing because this shows how Trump is not guilty, right? So I was like, yeah, this reminds me so much of crypto, and I don't know, like I had to laugh a bit because actually, I probably partly agree. It doesn't really matter what happens there. I just think it was a bit of a weird move the Democrats did there from a political side. But I just thought it was so funny how the parallels get drawn to crypto. Yeah. What do you think does this mean for crypto? Do you think it matters if Biden or Trump gets elected, or do you think it's so irrelevant because there's only one path down, which is going to be money printing, and that should help risk on assets?
I think it's definitely better for crypto. It would be better if Trump gets elected, 100% certain, because he made it part of his presidential election campaign. And just from a regulatory perspective, we saw that right now. Biden vetoed the crypto bill. So, and he's like in bed with Senator Warren and this other guy, Brett Sherman, I'm not sure if I pronounced his name correctly, but there is like this anti-crypto gang, and they are more on the Democratic side. They're more in Biden's camp, and I think so just price wise, I think short term it's better if Trump gets elected than Biden. Long term price wise, I think it doesn't matter. It's going to be good either way. But regulatory wise, I think definitely Trump would be a better fit for crypto for us. Let's say. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Um, you mentioned in the talk that we had just coming in that you could see the risk of a rate increase. Do you want to share a bit of your thoughts there? I'm kind of leading over from Trump to
Yeah.
macro.
So when I say maybe first, I want to spill out two important dates. So today, actually, the Central Bank of Canada there is a 90% chance that they're going to lower rates, and tomorrow the ECB has a meeting and they have an 80% chance of lowering rate. But in the United States, it's a bit different. So all other major G7 or I think even G20 countries had a technical recession within like the last few years, except the US. You can, dispute if we had one or not in 2022. Some people say we had, some people say we hadn't. But the US is performing insanely with rates that high. And now what people say on Fin Twitter is basically, hey, if rates are high and the economy is still running hot, rates are actually too low. Because you can see gold, silver, the metals, the S&P 500, everything is basically making new all-time highs or moving in the territory of all-time highs, which is usually a sign that liquidity is loose, that there is liquidity. Otherwise, you cannot really go for all-time highs, at least not several assets at the same time. And that could be a sign that we talked about that, I think 2 weeks ago, that the fiscal side, so fiscal dominance, that on the fiscal side, there is too much liquidity coming into the market and the rates are not high enough. So a lot of fintech people, they actually say, we were going into the year expecting six rate cuts starting in May. Now we're in June and we're expecting one rate cut. And a lot of people say, hey, this will turn even more going towards the end of the year, and suddenly there will be a rate hike on the table. That's at least, it's not a conspiracy or anything. It's just people are kind of assuming that this could happen. And this is US specifically. Other countries are, Switzerland already cut. Europe is probably going to cut. Canada is probably going to cut. And a few others might follow. I'm not sure what your thoughts are on let's say, the rates internationally or in the US.
I'm not following the rates internationally all too much because I think they're so irrelevant for me. I live in Singapore. The Singapore MAS here is, I don't know, I think it's quite conservative and reasonable with the rates. We didn't have as much money printing during COVID because Singapore is actually doing quite well. So for me, it doesn't really matter what the euro does. It doesn't really matter what, I know, Canada does. So the UK does. It really has almost no impact. To be fair, on me, to me, what matters is what Singapore does and what the US does. And the US is just because it affects everything. And yeah, the US, in my opinion, is not going to raise rates. I think they're not going to. That would be, I mean, I think that would be such havoc. And they're not going to do this before a US election. If it weren't a US election year, I mean, I think all bets would be off. But right now, I mean, I think, yeah, I know. I wouldn't. I don't know. Then the Clintons would run an assassination on the Fed. So I doubt that. So yeah.
Yeah, it's very likely that before the election, nothing is going to happen. They're not going to cut. They're not going to raise, and we're probably like a recession is also very unlikely in the US. I think until the recession, we're basically on not on hold, but yeah, we could say
They're
on
just gonna
hold
stretch
until
it
New Year's.
out. I mean, again, I think if it weren't an election year, I think it would be different. But yeah, the way it is right now, I think it's just Democrats couldn't afford that, and they have what? They have now 5 more months, and they're just gonna kind of try to do their best and see, and then yeah, let's see what happens afterwards. But then I think the money printing can start in January or February.
I I do have a conspiracy theory that's slightly connected to that topic, and
Please
that's it. That is, there was
wait. We need
actually
the.
so.
Where's the tinfoil hat?
Yeah, I wish I don't have it here, but let's pretend I have my tinfoil hat on right now. So on June 9, 1974, that's exactly 50 years ago, Saudi Arabia and the United States
Oh,
signed a
right.
contract called the
Petrodollar.
Petrodollar Agreement.
Mm.
And it was signed on June 9th, 2024, and it has an expiry date on exactly 50 years. That would put it 4 days from now. 4 days. And the petrodollar was basically established 3 years after the gold standard. So you had 71, gold standard was cut off, a bit of a turbulent period, and then three years later in 74, the petrodollar system was established. And for anybody that doesn't know, it's basically under the petrodollar agreement, Saudi Arabia agreed to sell oil exclusively in US dollars. So a barrel, and the US in exchange will guarantee military security and economic development assistance. That's the too long didn't read. I can link you up the whole agreement, but it's a 50-year-old agreement, and it's expiring in 4 days. And some conspiracy theorists are saying that this is the reason why gold is pumping, and then in the future maybe gold is going to be traded in oil is going to be traded in gold, or they say maybe it's going to be in a new BRICS currency, or maybe it's going to be in Bitcoin. But there's many theories out there, not a lot of substance. But yeah, in theory, this agreement is going to run out in 4 days. If there is anything happening afterwards, I don't know, because there isn't an announcement from Saudi Arabia, or there isn't an announcement from the US that anything is going to change. But yeah, maybe we are going to see something next week. I think it puts the date on Sunday. So yeah, I don't know. Do you expect anything to come from this, or is this a non-event? Or
I mean, okay, sure, the contract expires, but I don't know. I mean, again, I think maybe over time, but like, is something going to happen now in 4 days? I mean, I would be super surprised. I don't think so. I mean, the the rails are there, the patterns run deep. I don't know. Would really surprise me.
yeah, I don't know. I think a lot of people underestimate or overestimate the short term and underestimate the long
Always.
term. And I think that, that Ray Dalio has a great book on that, Changing World Orders. And you see a bit of the, let's say, the US and the US dollar dominance is fading away in several areas. And what comes out of it is probably a multipolar world. Like we're moving from hegemony, that everything is basically centered from the US, into a multipolar world where you probably have several, I don't know, stronger currencies or stronger players. But this is going to take time. Like for now, the US is still the dominant force, both fiscal and military wise. But in the longer term, there's definitely a shift happening, and I guess this is bullish for crypto. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think I agree with all of that. Why? I mean, I kind of to close a bit the circle of what you started in with. Do you have the same feeling that if you ask anyone right now, everyone is kind of bullish on what's happening long term in crypto, especially next year? But I think the tough part is the waiting. Is when do we get there? Especially now, sure, May was insanely strong, Ethereum pumped, Bitcoin recovered, but it feels like there's just, I don't know. It's just it's quite painful sometimes.
Maybe let
Yeah,
me share. So this is not a data perspective, but an anecdotal perspective. This is just the people I talk to and the people I'm involved with. And the strange thing, and it's also true for myself, So a lot of people that I know, the same is true for Julian and myself, we have 2 cycles on our back. So we've been there for the 17 run up and we've been there for the 21 run up. And largely, the people that have experienced 2 cycles, maybe also the people that came in new, were disappointed by the 21 run up. Everybody was expecting to go into the 6 figures. Everybody was expecting the 100K, and we didn't get it. So now everybody seems to be a bit more cautious. If I talk to employees, if I talk to friends of mine that have been in crypto for a while, a lot of them are actually pretty bearish and say this cycle might be underwhelming, that they don't even expect the 100K to be broken. They are super conservative. When I ask them, when do you plan to take profits? A lot of them actually tell me that they're going to take profits 80K, 90K, or Ethereum, 5K, 8K, in that range, which is actually not that bullish. If you talk to newer people, they expect us to go to 300K and Ethereum to 15K and so on. And one of the reasons this might be is there are several bigger influencers that came up, let's say maybe during the last cycle, that they have all these weird theories that we're in the middle of this S-curve adoption. So we're in the middle of this flattening part, and that we won't really get the big gains this cycle, that we're basically going to be a bit flat, slightly bigger all-time high, not really big lows. And that's a bit of a boring period over the next 5, 6, 7 years. And that then the final explosion is going to happen, and we really go into the 500K million range for Bitcoin. That's a lot of people that in my personal, let's say, circle are expecting this. Maybe it's just to protect our own emotions and basically not have too high expectations in the short term. Maybe because we are a bit disappointed from the last cycle. Long term, I think most crypto people are aligned. We are going to this is going to be a thing in the long term, but the short term is a bit, I don't know, weird and unpredictable. Of course, I hope that Bitcoin is going into the 6 figures and ETH is going into the 5 figures. I hope for it every day. It's the stuff my dreams are made out of. But also sometimes it's good to manage your expectations a bit.
What do you think about Roaring Kitty? I mean, remember when a month ago, right? I shared the theory that it could be that he got funded by a fund. Now people are starting to calculate, could he have made all this kind of money by himself? Like a lot of rumors. Now, obviously, the SEC is investigating, which is absolutely bullshit in my opinion, because like all the politicians and stuff, they're trading left and right, no investigation ever. What are your thoughts?
I think it's pretty crazy. So I was a bit doubtful just because the videos and the schedule that he uploaded it was a bit weird. It was, I don't know how long, it was a week period or a few days where he uploaded only memes, images, and short videos, basically a few movies cut together and very, I don't know, mythical or memey. And he didn't upload on YouTube. He didn't.
He never showed his face, right? He never showed his face. There was no interview, no nothing.
Nothing. And then suddenly, I think Unusual Whales, he confirmed that Roaring Kitty had, I don't know, 80 million, 200 million of...
No. First, Unusual Whales analyzed that there was some unusual options buying activity on GameStop. And obviously, a lot of people were speculating on where this was coming from. And then Roaring Kitty posted on Superstonk his portfolio that showed that from E-Trade that he was the one who bought all those options. And I think right now he's like $80 million up on those.
And then he posted the Uno reverse card. Yeah.
So what is the conspiracy theory here, or what are your thoughts here? Yeah, I don't know. Does any of that change your mind on him, or do you think no, this is actually spot on? Like he played the game, or what are your thoughts?
Look, I want to give him the benefit of the doubt because I think he's more of an activist than interested in making money. I mean, he didn't really take profit. He didn't really switch his life or anything. He had life-changing money, and he's he has basically his diamond hands. I mean, come on, he's trading a stock where he sees deep value. The stock goes up like crazy, and he doesn't sell out, he doesn't cash out. And then I ask myself the question, what should have changed? I mean, is the money
And
that
what
he
if that's a
made?
what if that's a fund and not him?
I mean, the only reason why I can imagine that he would take a deal like that is that he really wants to stick it to the short sellers, that he really wants to take this to the next
Oh,
level.
he's
I mean,
such an idealist. It's like,
I,
oh,
of course,
like there's no monetary motivation there. It's pure. Nah, I mean, you could be
I,
right, sure.
I, I, I don't know. I just can't not see him doing this for the money. I mean, why? I don't really see that. And if he, I mean, right now, E-Trade is thinking about kicking him
Delisting
off the
him.
platform. Yeah,
Yeah,
crazy.
but then did you see that tweet from Public, who straight away came and said, "Hey, come over. We even cover your fees." I thought that was such good marketing.
Really good marketing, definitely. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, interesting one. I mean, sure. I mean, if he had taken any kind of investment deal, sure, I think it would change the view of a lot of people. Yeah, agree.
Hmm.
Agree.
I don't know. Other than that, look, I can maybe bring up. We are halfway through. Normally we do an hour. We are 32 minutes in. So I can do one or two news headlines, and I would love to get a reaction from you to that. So, for
Let's do it.
example, yesterday I saw BlackRock and Citadel are planning a new national exchange in Texas to compete with the New York Stock Exchange. What are your thoughts?
Didn't see that. What? So BlackRock and Citadel, an exchange in Texas to compete. Interesting. So obviously they're just a bit bearish on all this Democrat woke stuff that's going on there. That's very anti-capitalist. And I mean, there's a lot of people right now that I see coming out who are very critical of what's going on in New York. So I know they may be just hatching their bets where they're like, okay, the more companies want to go away from there, move the headquarter. I mean, Tesla is voting on moving the headquarter as well. No, I think this is the same vote. So interesting hedge. What do you see? Well, how do you see that?
I also think it's a bit of the New York has a lot of headwinds, and they're very, I would say, democratically ruled by the Democrats. You know, the institutions and the financial oversight there is tending a bit more to the Democratic side, a bit more towards the socialist side, a bit more anti-capital, and that's the financial headquarters of the US. And maybe institutions like BlackRock and Citadel, they also want to kind of cover their own ass and move into a jurisdiction where, you know, privacy and property laws and it's more, let's say, a Republican uh, castle. So I can understand the move, and they might even be able to compete with the Nasdaq. I mean, they're the biggest players there are. I mean,
Yeah,
Citadel
if they
is a
move.
huge player. BlackRock is the biggest asset manager in the world. I mean, if they are moving there, and if they bring a good product to the market, I think it could be very, very promising.
Okay, I want to do the same. Do you know how many coins got launched on Solana in May?
I know that is a historic all-time high that I don't know. I want to say uh, in the hundreds of thousands, probably. I don't know, probably 150,000.
Dude, that's quite good. 500,000 coins got launched on Solana in May. What are your
Base,
thoughts?
mostly base, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Look, they made what Solana has at the moment is this experience. So if not shilling anything here, but if you want to, like for me at least, the best way to experience this craziness with all of these coins is download Phantom Wallet from the App Store, put one Solana on it, and then go and gamble away. I mean, the meme coins and the craziness that is going on there is
And meme
insane.
coins are
It's
just insane there. Yeah.
Yeah, and basically um, they made it so easy to create and trade coins that everybody kind of it's super easy, it's super
Yeah,
straightforward,
fuck.
and
Wait, wait,
everybody
wait.
can kind
Papa's
of
still on a
gamble away.
call. I. We can go afterwards. Can you give me a little bit? I'll come out. Okay. Like, yeah. Now that my kids know how to open the door, nothing. I need to lock it. I think for the videos. Okay, give me another headline.
Um, I mean, you had plenty of people that are predicting Bitcoin. So we had, for example, Goldman Sachs and VanEck. And VanEck said, let me see, they came out and they said, okay, eventually, which I don't think it's probably a bearish prediction, but VanEck CEO says Bitcoin will eventually become at least half of the market cap of gold. So that's 250,000 prediction. And with an eventually, I think it's even
Yeah,
it's probably bearish.
I mean, look, even in 2016, in cryptocurrency, simply explained, I predicted parity. At that point, that was 500,000.
Yeah.
I mean, at that point, I predicted that's going to happen within 10 years. So that was 2025. I mean, to be fair, I would love to buy myself more time right now, right? And say, okay, not 2025. I mean, sure, it's possible, but I would love to buy myself more time and just say, give it another 5 years, give it until the end of the decade. But I'm fairly optimistic that we're going to see the $500,000 on Bitcoin, especially with the money printing. I mean, the
100%.
question is not so much. I mean, all those crazy numbers. Bitcoin could reach $10 million. Of course, it could. That just depends on the money printing, right? I mean, if the U.S. goes money printing galore over the next 10 years, of course. So yeah.
So we talked about it probably 5, 6, 7 weeks ago that eventually we will see MicroStrategy copycats. And I think we saw that we're seeing the first one. So we had a healthcare company, Semler Scientific, buying 40 million worth of Bitcoin and pursuing an active Bitcoin treasury, let's say, strategy. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I think that's very difficult. I don't know. I just don't understand how or why or what. I don't know. I just don't see the upside. Like why would they have any success? I just don't understand. I think there's space for one, and one is doing this really well. I just don't think I don't see why there would be more.
I agree. Sailor is in a very unique position that he's the biggest. Probably nobody can ever, really catch up to him. And MicroStrategy is also seen as this. You can buy it and have some Bitcoin exposure. He can play the S&P 500 inclusion and so on. So a classic play like that, I don't see it happening. But I would still make the argument that for a lot of companies that have a lot of cash and big cash flows, it makes a lot of sense to allocate parts of it into Bitcoin and just hold it on the balance sheet. I mean, if your balance sheet is appreciating by, let's say, an order of magnitude in 10 years or in 20 years, yeah, it's better than to hold everything in cash and
Yeah.
basically have a melting ice cube in your hands.
Yeah.
So
I
I
mean,
can
sure.
understand
To
that
me, it's
part.
more on that flywheel, right? That MicroStrategy kind of creates, where they constantly keep leveraging, keep leveraging, keep leveraging. I think that's the key thing. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe political headline. So Milei, the president of Argentina, went to visit
Tucker.
Bukele,
Bukele.
president of El Salvador, and also I think tonight Tucker Carlson is dropping an interview with Bukele.
Yeah,
So I
I saw
guess
that. Yeah.
El Salvador is getting a lot of attention. Do you think that there is any chance that Milei is going to follow in his footsteps?
Not sure. I'm long Argentina as a country. Um, Invested personally, but not sure. I also don't understand how much El Salvador. I think for El Salvador, Bitcoin was a super marketing machine, and it fits really well to the narrative. I'm not 100% sure how much Bitcoin is actually used there. I don't know. And there's a diminishing return if you're the second one that adopts Bitcoin. I don't know if Argentina gets the same kind of marketing. I don't know. Not sure. I mean, if they do it, I don't think it's going to hurt them. But at the end, I don't think it fundamentally is going to change the economy. I think the economy gets changed by good decisions, and I hope that Milei is going to make good decisions there as a capitalist, kick socialism out. Yeah, takes the tough decisions. That's why I invested in Argentina, really, and I hope that's what he keeps doing. To me, whether he adopts Bitcoin as a secondary currency or not is not going to change much for the economy. The economy needs to get changed by good decisions, and yeah, Bitcoin is just is an accounting unit, nothing else. Whether yeah doesn't change the economy per se. The economy gets changed by companies. That's key.
I think just on Millet, one point, I think he, for a lot of things that he wants to get rid of, he doesn't have overwhelming support from the parliament, from the Senate.
Sure,
And
he's unpopular.
he,
Yeah.
he made some really, he had some really crazy tactics that I just thought from, like, I wouldn't have thought of this, but for example, in Argentina, you have this one crazy rule that if you cannot get the Senate aligned, and he as a president can veto almost everything. But if you cannot get an alignment between the Senate and the president of a budget, let's say for, I don't know, the Ministry of Education or something, they have a budget in 2023 and they cannot get any alignment within a year. They basically just get the same budget allocated to them again. But if you're in a country that has 50% inflation a year, you basically cut the budget in half. And that's how he plays a lot of that. He basically just vetoes everything and he says, yeah, you will get the same budget as last year. But in purchasing power or an actual budget, it's actually half because the inflation chips away. And that's how he starts to kind of save on spending. He has very advanced and creative tactics to achieve what he wants, even though he has a large part of the Senate that is not really voting with him or doing what he wants. I think it's super interesting.
Yeah.
Cool. Like that were the headlines until, or at least the ones that we had till the last time that we spoke here. So from my side, I don't have anything that is pressing or that is.
No, I think it was a good episode. I mean, I hadn't been following the news so much, so I didn't even know we're gonna get that long. But no, thanks so much for all the updates, Fabio. Appreciate it. Community, it's day 8. We're gonna post the video a bit later. Check it out. Have a look at our customizable bundle. Create your own bundle. Share it with friends. See who can have the best performing bundle. Yeah, looking forward. Fabio, thank you. Very much appreciated. Next week, Fabio, I just send you also a calendar thing on that. If possible, can we do the live on Tuesday, and then the week after, can we do the live on Thursday? Because otherwise, it's not really easily possible for me. So next week, Tuesday, the week after, Thursday. Looking forward, everyone. Please, let's all push together. 90 days. Let's go. See you next week. Thanks so much, Fabio.